It's the final week of the CFL regular season before we jump into postseason betting, which is always fun in the CFL. Andrew and Bobby here with you to find out if you can make money betting the last week of the CFL season. Bobby, how are you?
Good. I'm just taking a look at the, I guess we can say shocking news because everybody else is going to say it, the MOP nominees from each team. And I feel like GRP wins here. I got the best position in the country. Got the market cornered.
You've got the market. You probably like screw. You're probably thinking right now, screw the games, screw the post. You don't even want to be here on this show. You're planning your vacation to Aruba. You're getting ready to go somewhere fun. You got your notebook out. You know who you're cheering for.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, the best part about futures when you're in that position that you're in right now is, for the most part, you're just kind of cheering for the highest priced guy you have, right? Um,
Yeah. And I was
picking and
like, I
cheering
was
for those
worried
guys.
about, I was worried about hedging on our boy Cody Fajardo, and he didn't even get nominated off his own team. So that was a sweat that we didn't even have to worry about. That was a true sucker bet. Joe Flacco of the CFL, I guess.
Well, I mean, we did talk about it, the fact that we thought that somebody had to play X amount of games to earn it, right? And do you think that's probably part of it for him?
Oh, for sure. Like he was probably like I guess Bo Levi was the best quarterback all year, but Harris, Fajardo, probably right there next. Like Fajardo was a good quarterback on a really good team, right? So I think they kind of just nominated Beverett because there's lots of talk of Milligan, right? Like, so that maybe it's the time for the defensive guy. So, if Fajardo got the nominee, I don't think he'd beat Bo Levi for the Eastern nominee. So, I think it was probably strategic on Montreal media there.
Usually, I'm a fan of diving right into the games, and I know that that's what the algorithm supports is what people are more interested in. But with this being the last week, anybody here with us, anybody tuning in to this show, being the last week of the CFL season, not even the playoff bets, they're probably CFL fans. So I wanted to go over a few things for just last week, and the one thing I wanted to talk about was your BC Lions. How did you feel about VA? 385 yards, but two TDs, two interceptions. Um, they dominate the Alouettes, but the Alouettes again are kind of cruising to that top spot in their individual division. But that's one thing that stood out to me. And then of course you look at that. You look at the Red Blacks again. Hey, they put up some points themselves, but man, they allowed a ton of points. So that was good to see us successful there. And then the last thing I'll say before I'll throw it to you is that Stamps and Ticats. I think it goes to show again these non-playoff teams or these non-important teams right now. The offense isn't lost, but the defensive intensity. We always say on the hockey shows I do. Are you inclined in game 81 of an NHL season to block shots, to put your body on the line, to lay down in front of a slap shot? If you're going to be on the beach in 2 weeks and your team is not making the playoffs. And I feel like in football, are you going to make that extra hit? Are you going to do this extra work? Or is your team going to play first to 30 wins the game? And in the case of some of the games last week, it was first to 38 won the game. So I'm curious, any of your takeaways from last week?
Yeah, we'll start with BC. So, like, I think we said last week, as long as VA doesn't get injured, like he's going to be the quarterback for the rest of the year. So he probably, I don't think anybody there was a lot of talk saying he was clearly the better quarterback, but like I don't know if anybody really thought he would light it up like he did, like that easily. So good for him. I'm happy for him. And I was listening after like this week, like Danny Machocha, the Alouettes GM, saying, "Oh, we were scared of this week all season," and I kind of wish I knew that before the game. But it is like a kind of a mean nothing game. It's the biggest travel in the league, and they were sort of on a semi short week, I think. So it was just a bad spot for them, and I think like as I've already posted out that we've got an opportunity with them this weekend here, as people are so low on them.
Mm. Yeah, and that's the thing is that from a betting perspective, that's where you make the money, I think, at the end of the regular season. So, and from the betting perspective, some of these teams, hey, they might come away with wins, but are they going to cover the point spread? Is really the big question. So, we'll jump into it. And first game up being the Ticats and the Red Blacks, and the jokes continue on our behalf and our end about this very Red Blacks team. They might have gotten us a few times each. I think one time when I was on them and you weren't, and then one time you were on them and I wasn't on them. Or against them, I should say. But when it comes down to it, they're playing at home this weekend, the Red Blacks. It's a final chance to at least leave a good taste in their fans' mouth, as weird as that might have sounded. That sounded a lot better when I was planning on saying. But point being here, is this Red Blacks team going to go out on a good note, Bobby, or are they going to continue to be a train wreck that they are?
Well, I don't even have to answer that question.
There we go.
Like,
I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Like this week, like we've kind of have to downgrade every team except Winnipeg and maybe Saskatchewan, just because nobody's really playing for anything. But like team like the Ticats, they've been playing for nothing for a while, but they're still going to be rotating more players in. Ottawa's got nothing to play for here. Even when they do have something to play for, they're terrible. So I can't, like, it's hard to downgrade Ottawa more than we already have, right? But you kind of have to. So Ticats haven't really changed their mindset the last 2 months. I think Ian Cameron ended their season on his football frenzy. He had a big rant over the summer that kind of killed that season. But Bo Levi is still starting. It'll be similar to the same kind of team that's been playing the last few weeks. So is Ottawa favored right now? I don't think they should be.
Yeah.
I'm hesitant just to jump on Hamilton right now, though, just because it is the last game of the season. Milanovic did that stupid thing with Taylor Powell earlier in the year. Like, there's a chance he could show up again in this game. So maybe if it goes to a 3, I'll be on Hamilton. Normally, like, this would be an auto bet against Ottawa, but just not in the final week of the season. So I'd like to bet Hamilton, but I'll wait for a better number just because there's a threat of Bo Levi not playing the entire game.
Last 6 games for this Ticats team: 31, 37, 33, 32, 42, and then 10. So 5 of those 6 games, they put up some serious numbers. Yeah, sure, in some decent spots. 2 of those against the Argos, one against the Lions, getting those Red Blacks, getting the stamps. I think the question we have to ask ourselves, and I don't even think this is really a question, this year, was the problem really the Ticats offense? Or was it their defense?
No, I don't.
Right?
Yeah, at the beginning of the year, remember, they were getting torched for 40 a game, right? So
yeah,
Bo Levi was an easy target. I turned out to be their most outstanding player, nominated by the team itself.
Exactly. And he was the one everybody was going after. So, this is one of those ones where I think I'm going to go ahead and go after them. I think that if you put it this way, if you don't love this spot for Hamilton, if you're interested in betting this game and you're even a little bit hesitant towards it, you play the over. And I'll tell you, in the CFL playoffs, we're going to see some different totals than usual. We're going to see some different play calling than usual. I'm not saying teams just change who they are, but we see it all the time. Like, teams that can run the ball genuinely perform better most of the time in the postseason. Teams that manage turnovers perform better in the postseason in the CFL. Special teams perform better. But last week of the season here, a team that's putting up points offensively, that's Hamilton against the Ottawa team giving up points to everybody. This game could be if I was living in Ottawa, I'd go to this game this weekend just because there might be 70 points in this game. There might be a lot of points. So I feel the same way that I felt last week about the Calgary game as I feel about this one. So and I'm curious to what you said there about, like, seeing if this number moves much, because how many people are attacking these? I guarantee you, it's going to be all the, you know, the Vegas bettors that follow the steam and stuff like that, and just look at. They're going to reappear again in 2 weeks. They're going to reappear in 2 weeks. We're not going to see anybody really bet in CFL this week. Once the postseason hits, people will be fired up to start talking about the CFL again. But the Argos and Elks, this one is very similar to Bombers Alouettes when you look at kind of how the game plays out point spread wise, with the Elks being -2 home favorites. You won't see that very often. And obviously the lineups and all that, it makes sense. So how do we approach this one, do you think?
So yeah, Cameron Dukes is starting for the Argos. It's a mean nothing game for them again. They're playing next week for something important. So there's not much to expect out of the Argos. As far as the Elks, head coach has said, like, everything remains the same this week. So that means Trey Ford starts. That means the best quarterback on the team is QB3. Still, I'd like Edmonton kind of is in that sort of Hamilton mode where they've been out for a while and they've been playing okay, like better than they were earlier in the year. So I think Edmonton's right to be favored in this spot. But I think that's like less than a field goal is probably where it should be. So nothing interesting in terms of this game from my end.
Yeah. Look, I think that the Argos, I'm not betting this game. I'll put it this way. I'm not betting this game. But what I said about Ottawa and the funny expression way I was trying to say it about leaving a good taste, that's kind of how I feel about Edmonton, really. That's kind of, whatever expression you want to use. I feel like Edmonton kind of has that in them. I feel like Edmonton's team as a whole, what they've put their fan base through the past few years, they had a little bit of expectations this season to be a little bit better. They do have some talented players. Winnipeg shows up when they need to show up. I'm not sure they're going to show up. But then again, what do I always say? October is the month of the Bombers. Guess what? My calendar says it's still October. So, you're going to get them at pretty much pick against a pretty crappy team. Despite all these starters, might not be there. They could be still a better team. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to see a show put on by the Elks. If I'm playing this game, give me the under. Give me the under as a total. I talked about the last game being one that could be an absolutely, ridiculously high-scoring game. This one might be boring. Might kind of see some guys we don't usually see some plays we don't usually see run. Could be, a game that Winnipeg doesn't want to be blown out in by any means. They're going to be around.
Playing Toronto. You're getting Toronto-Winnipeg mixed up.
Or sorry, Toronto. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, same thing with Toronto.
Because you did say Toronto is turning it up at the end of the year. That's why we got those future bets at 10-1, 7-1, right? So.
Well, I've been comparing Toronto and Winnipeg in their own individual conferences, but my whole point is that these teams, I think, as much as they might not care about this game, the fact that you're getting, +2 on a team like this, it's kind of a weird number, and we all know why, as you mentioned it with Dukes. But I still think it's going to be kind of boring. So when you take two teams like Hamilton and Ottawa that have just been absolute trash all season, and then you look at this one with Toronto and Edmonton, where one team's had a pretty respectable season and one team not so much, I think it could be kind of a boring game. But I do think Edmonton pulls it out in low-scoring fashion. And the reason why I got things mixed up is because Winnipeg is playing in the next game we're going to talk about. I appreciate you catching me there with that. 7-point favorites against the Alouettes. And we see the total on that one being 48. And that was an under that I liked before the show. And I know you like the side in this game. You're taking the home team?
Yeah, sorry. Someone's just like looking in the window here. This is after hours, but the main door is open. So I'm fending off customers.
They're trying to get a coffee or what?
Trying to get a coffee at 4:45 in the afternoon. Crazy. Okay,
couldn't be me drinking coffee at.
Yeah, I guess. Well, you got to be up to watch hockey tonight. I don't have to. So, so yeah, like Bombers favored by a touchdown here. it's a must win. They're going full steam here. Calaro, Solivera, everybody on defense starting. This is an important game for them. They have to win to get a bye week next week. And then you can break down the Alouettes in the most square way possible, right? They're playing for nothing. They look bad last weekend. This game means nothing, so there's no reason to like this team, and I think that's why this line is kind of steamed up. I think it opened closer to 4 or 5, and it's kind of rocketed towards Winnipeg. So I'm looking at it this way. I think the Alouettes kind of have to start Fajardo. I don't know who's starting, Fajardo or Alexander. There's maybe a 1 point difference between the two of them in my mind. But Fajardo didn't look good in BC. And if he's still their starter, they've got a bye next week. That means he'll go 6 weeks playing 1 quarter of like no good football, 9 passes. So like they have to play him a bit. You still downgrade Montreal a bit for this meaningless game, but I don't think this line should be anywhere near it is. I don't think they should be getting more than a field goal, and they're getting a whole touchdown here at home in a must-win game for Winnipeg. But as you know, like must-win games don't automatically mean that the team that needs to win is going to win. So I like the Alouettes here.
They need to win. They don't need to cover, right?
For sure. And 7 is still a lot of points in this league. You saw with we were laughing at Ottawa. Ottawa was down like 24-0 right off the bat against Toronto before I could even find the game on TV. And I think they came back, and I think Argos won by 8 or 10 or maybe a touchdown. So they won, but they didn't cover, and they're up 24-0 in like 10 minutes. So there's always a threat of a backdoor here, and throwing your backups, like the Montreal backup quarterback is not the same backup quarterback that would be on another team. So downgrade him for sure, but not too much. And I think they want to kind of make sure they know what they have, especially if they're going with Fajardo into the playoffs. They got to get him some action. So I like the Alouettes. I don't really like a sprinkle on the money line on this one. I'll take the 7 points and watch it play out.
This might sound like a funny comparison to make, but I kind of compare this week to people that laugh about betting preseason sports. Like, I've made money betting preseason NFL, preseason NHL. If I can see a line, preseason CFL, this is one of those weeks where, and the reason why I'm saying that is because you'll see people breaking down games in preseason NFL and say, well, Patrick Mahomes is playing. This guy's going to play. Kelsey's going to play. Yeah, I know. But this is why the spread is this, right? And so for this game in particular, hey, this guy might not be playing, or they might need this. They might need that. But at the end of the day, does that reflect what the point spread should be? And that's why I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I really like this play. I think it's correlated, though. I think Montreal wins, and I think the under hits. I think this game is a battle. I think we see a heavy run game. I think we see a Montreal team that still remains focused. Because if not, Bobby, I actually care about what I see this weekend. Because if not, the same way we faded Toronto en route to Montreal winning the Grey Cup, I don't know about you. I can't speak for you. We might be doing the same thing against the Alouettes in the postseason this year. And it seems to me like it's actually kind of a rarity in the CFL for the team that's like been dominant all year to end up winning the whole thing. Look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Like every year that it seemed like it was a sure thing they'd win it, they didn't. And this to me seems like a spot, like you said, can't win the MOP if you only play, 2/3 of the games. Well, if you're resting and you're prepared, and that's the thing about the 9-man league. They've had the number 1 place locked up for so long. I think this game will mean more than it should for them, just focus-wise. And I think it really helps that they're at home as well. Like, if this is +7 when they're at home, what's the line if they're in Winnipeg?
Yeah, like what? That'd be 11 or 12 probably.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy talk. That is crazy talk. And again, the total is 48 still. This is going to be one, I think, that it goes under the total. And I think this has field goal written all over it, or it could be a weird CFL game, finishes with like 4 or 5 points. Special teams are huge though, and as long as Montreal takes care of the ball, they're not getting blown out. They're not getting blown out by double digits. So I actually really like this play here. Um, and I'll just say it one more time: Winnipeg's looking for a W. They're not looking for an ATSW. And they are not going to be pissed on the sideline, guys. If they win by 2 field goals, they will not be upset about it on the sideline if they're. And the funny thing is, this game has the lowest total on the board. And I know it's not by much, but in totals, you have to take all the numbers into account. 50.5 for the first game, rightfully so. 49.5 for the second one. 48 and then 49 for Calgary and Saskatchewan. So with Saskatchewan this week, I'm curious how you feel about them here against Calgary. And Calgary, I think they're the one team that we can say, and I'm sure you'd agree with me, and I'm not trying to be too deep about all this stuff, but I feel like we kind of have to be in this week in the CFL. Are the Calgary Stampeders players fighting for jobs right now? Are they fighting for tape? Are they fighting for resume material? Because I don't know what else they're fighting for.
Yeah, and they weren't fighting for anything last week either, and they had a chance to win the game in the last minute against the Elks, right? So, like it looks like Matthew Schultz is going to start. They signed PJ Walker just to bring him up and show him around. Like Dickinson said, he's not playing this week, so everybody's saying they found the quarterback of the future, and he's not even going to get a game in, and he might be invited back next year. So Schultz isn't really showing anything. Like he's kind of faded off to like still better than half the backups you see get paraded around the CFL, but he's not kind of that borderline. Is he a starter? Is he not? Where Davis Alexander basically is in now. It seems like Dickinson is open to anybody. They mentioned Logan Bonner again. You don't want to hear those words if you're betting on the Stamps. As far as the Riders go, like this game could mean something and it could not mean something. And Winnipeg plays right ahead of them. If Winnipeg wins, this game's meaningless. Winnipeg's favored by a touchdown, even if we don't think that's the right number. Winnipeg's likely to win that game. I guess like the game prep's already been done, so the starters are going to play maybe a quarter at least. But if it's meaningless, how much does this line come down? I think like if Winnipeg wins, I think this number is Saskatchewan 7. So it's a good number to jump at right now, but maybe it's a chance for a correlated. If Winnipeg loses, correlated parlay here. If you take Montreal and take Saskatchewan at this cheap number relatively, if the game ends up meaning nothing, the number should be about a field goal here. I just grab it on game days. You can see how this Bombers game is going to go, and this line will not move. It's not like NFL where these lines will move dependent on the morning games, and you'll be trying to get a bet in the little window between the 10 and 1 a.m. starts. So I think this number is going to stay stagnant during that Winnipeg game, and you can kind of attack it as you will there. But I think if Winnipeg loses, this is a big game for Saskatchewan, and I'd take them even at the 3.5 that they're at right now.
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's cool to see how it's separated, right? These games. I mean, it'd be a shame if they were like an hour or two apart. Not like they usually do that anyway, but it is cool to see. And I'll be the first one to say it, even though we all know this already. These guys are going to be well aware what's going on. They're going to be doing their game day routines, stretching, doing whatever, but they're gonna be in the building. And the coaching staff, some of the players are going to be well aware of the score in the other game. They're going to know what's going on. But, yeah, like you said, I'm really curious, and I want to know what you think. Like you've been mentioning it, but how much do we honestly think the lines are going to move here? With college football, with NFL going on,
yeah,
there's not nearly as much volume. There's no volume. There's still not enough volume at all in general. I mean, I was told one time by a sportsbook trader for FanDuel that they literally could care less about NHL volume at all. They could get wrecked one night in the NHL and they do not care. Like it's
and this is like 100th of what you'd bet on the NHL, like in terms of handle, right? So this is nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious. I couldn't agree with you more. I'd say if there's one, obviously I like Montreal, but I think if there was one bet to make, like right now, we're recording this on Tuesday live, or excuse me, Wednesday. I would say it's Saskatchewan, but I kind of want to pull up the calculator here because I don't know the exact number. Minus 218 is the number I'm seeing on the money line for the Rough Riders, right? And then -4 is the number. Does that sound right to you?
That seems pretty, like a -3 is usually like a 150, right? So 4 is not really.
It's not
Yeah,
really
I don't know.
around. It'd be 4.5.
I think it'd be closer to 200. I guess. I think 218's a pretty big number that for 4 points.
Yeah,
Touchdown
that
is
tells me to
usually
bet
like
Saskatchewan.
280, 300. So
Yeah, that tells
yeah,
me to bet Saskatchewan.
worst case, you have a 50-50 bet here, right? Like worst case, Saskatchewan pulls their starters early, and you're picking the Riders backups over the Stamps mostly backups. So um, Shea Patterson versus Logan Bonner. I don't know. Maybe take the over because there'll be a lot of interceptions. But
I love that about the CFL that overs can work with interceptions. Like, oh no, they're gonna give the ball away, but it's also gonna lead to defensive touchdowns. CFL would be a great league to just find out. If you next year, maybe I'll do this on the show. We'll start giving out more props like that, touchdown scorers. And then we'll just look at, oh yeah, this quarterback is starting. Okay, defensive touchdown for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. But yeah, when I look at the first half numbered, -2.5, shaded to the Riders at -115. And again, with these weird DraftKings numbers, this is just what I use because I know people in the States can see it as well.
I think
-166.
that's the bet, right? Like 2.5 first half. Worst
Yeah,
case, it's a meaningless game, but Trevor Harris probably still plays the first quarter.
exactly. That's why I think if we're going to play this game, the first half could be the move.
And
But
Logan Bonner's not coming in the first half.
No, but the full game that number though does tell you a lot. Like I was saying about, and that's just little things I've learned over the years and from different people I've learned from, like seeing -218 in the money line, -4 being the spread, but then 2.5. Because then who the hell cares what happens in the Winnipeg game? Regardless, we think Saskatchewan gets the job done in the first half. And just to close out, I'll go to you for any more thoughts. I think that we keep on talking about it being a small league, right? Or I always say that you want to end the season on a good note. You want to end the season. It's the last bit of gameplay you're going to have before the playoffs. So whether the game means something or it doesn't mean something, you might as well go out there and put on a good show. So it's going to be a bad look, man, if Saskatchewan, at halftime, they're down like 17-13. That'd be rare to see Calgary. Then again, this is a Calgary team that I've been saying all year that I kind of like them in that 4-6 underdog range. But maybe that's because they backdoor cover a lot, and it's not because of the first half spread. So I think we've talked ourselves into a few bets here. Any closing thoughts?
Not just this Winnipeg Montreal. It's a super huge line, but I'm just thinking of last year. Montreal was getting a touchdown, 10 points in both playoff games that they won, right? So we didn't really see any big, like super huge numbers this year. These 14s that you'd see the Taylor Cornelius and the Elks get over the last couple of years. It was just interesting to see, and even the numbers this week in these mean nothing games against teams that are playing for it all, this still staying within a touchdown.
And that's what I keep on saying, right? A win doesn't mean an ATS win, and we're going to see that a lot in the playoffs, I think, and that's why I'd love to know, like dating back to like the last 10 years in the Grey Cup finals, how many times teams have won, and did that mean they covered as well, right? If I see a decent, if I see anything close to like 6 points in the Grey Cup, I don't care if it's a D3 team playing the Alouettes. I'm taking the dog, just because I don't think we see a lot of these blowouts there. So make sure you're following Bobby on X. Do you have it even listed on the screen there? Mr. Surrey Jack, is that what it is? Make sure you follow all of us, both of us on our channels, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. and we're going to post this on Twitter. I forgot last week. We still got a decent amount of views on YouTube, but we'll get this posted on Twitter before game time. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time for some postseason picks.